There's buried treasure in the Caribbean and a fight over the spoils. Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with stories about current events and trending topics. By listening to stories about a wide variety of topics, you'll expand your vocabulary, improve your English, and maybe even have some fun at the same time. Who knows? Coming up today, there is buried treasure off the coast of Colombia. There are hundreds of shipwrecks in Colombia's waters, but one in particular carries a massive treasure. It's the San José, and it has been sitting on the sea floor for over 300 years. Today, you'll hear about all the people who think they deserve the buried treasure. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you how to use the phrasal verb destined for, and we have a quote of the week. Let's dive in. Tell me if you've heard something like this before. When the doomed ship left Europe, it was considered one of the most advanced of its age. I'm not talking about the Titanic. I'm talking about the San José. And it's not buried in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic, but in the warm Caribbean waters off Cartagena, Colombia. It sank 200 years before the Titanic. The San José was part of the Spanish treasure fleet, large ships designed to facilitate trade between Spain and its colonies in the Americas. And in June 1708, it set sail from Portobello, Panama, to Cartagena, Colombia. It was in a fleet of 17 ships traveling together, and it carried a treasure trove of gold, silver, gems, and jewelry mined and collected from the South American colonies. The treasure was destined for Spain to help finance King Philip V's efforts in the War of Spanish Succession. But off the coast of Cartagena, the San José encountered an unfriendly British naval ship. Spain and Britain were on opposite sides of the war back in Europe. The British ship knew there was treasure in the fleet, and a battle started. The San José sank, taking all its treasure to the bottom of the sea. And that is where it has been for 325 years. For almost all that time, though, nobody knew where the shipwreck was. The San José sank 200 years before the Titanic, before there was radio. But in 1981, a private group of explorers called Glaucomora said they had found the San José. Glaucomora told the Colombian government where it was, on the condition that they, Glaucomora, could share in the profits. But still, nobody went to excavate it. In 2013, Colombia passed a law stating that any shipwrecks found in its territorial waters would be property of the government. The law leaves only a small finder's fee to anyone who discovers a treasure. Well then, 2 years later, in 2015, the Colombian government said it had found the San Jose, but not where Glacamora had said it was. So Colombia claims full ownership of the shipwreck. And they don't believe they have to share any of its treasure with anyone else. Glacamora has disbanded, but its successor company disagrees and is suing Colombia for half the value of the treasure. They're not the only ones. Spain contends that it is the rightful owner of the treasure. You have to admire the audacity. It is true that the San Jose did belong to the government of Spain when it sank, but it was carrying treasure that was mined and collected throughout its colonies in present-day Peru and Bolivia. And indigenous groups from those areas argue that it was their ancestors who were forced to mine that treasure from their territory, so they should be entitled to part of the treasure. There's a number being tossed around, 20 billion. That's what some people have said the treasure would be worth in US dollars. I am highly skeptical of that number. First, it's based on the best estimate of what the ship was carrying at the time, but that may or may not be fully correct. A true inventory is not known. Second, the value is based on the market value of the metals and the jewels in today's market, but there's no way to know what condition the treasure is in. Why are we talking about this today? The current president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, has instructed his culture ministry to fast-track a project to resurrect the San Jose from its resting place so that the treasure can be brought to the surface. You guessed it, before his term in office ends in 2026. Archaeologists and preservationists in Colombia say the government has not assembled a team of experts on deep sea preservation, and they have not established scientifically valid procedures to excavate the wreckage in a way that would allow it to be studied in the future. They worry that irreplaceable clues to the history of their continent are needlessly being put at risk, all for an artificial political timeline. When I read that Spain wanted it back, I just laughed out loud. I thought it had to have been a joke. Like, yes, we plundered the colonies, but you must understand that we are the real victims here. But I learned there is a concept called sovereign immunity, and that says that any country's warship is its own property forever. So if a warship sinks in another country's territory, that ship always belongs to the original government, no matter where it sank and no matter how much time has passed. So Spain does have a leg to stand on, legally speaking. That doesn't mean it's a good look. By the way, gold does not oxidize. So if a gold coin spends 300 years under the ocean, you could just spray it down and it would be as shiny and brilliant as the day it was minted. Silver is not the same. The silver would be ruined if it were exposed to the water. It's Monday, so I have a quote of the week for you. It's from John Steinbeck. He says, "Anything that just costs money is cheap." Because, of course, we can pay with things that are much more valuable than money. Here it is again. Anything that just costs money is cheap, says John Steinbeck, the author. Next up, the expression, it's destined for. Today, I'm going to show you how to say something is intended to reach a particular place. The way we're going to do this is with the phrasal verb destined for, and it's almost always used in the passive voice. So we say a thing is or was destined for, and then we put where that thing is intended to go, where it's supposed to go. Here's an easy example. If you're on a plane from Bogota to Madrid and you're in the air, you can say, this plane is destined for Madrid. That's because the plane's intended destination, the place it's supposed to be going, is Madrid. Destined for is often used in the past tense when something did not reach its intended destination. So you can say, the plane was destined for Madrid, but had to return to Bogota due to a sick passenger. The plane did not make it to Madrid. Madrid was its destination. That's where it was supposed to go. But there was a sick passenger. The plane had to turn around and go back, and the passengers had to take a different flight. So we say that first flight was destined for Madrid, but it didn't get there. In today's story, we learned about something else that did not reach its destination, and that would be all the treasure on board the San José, a Spanish ship. The ship was sailing in the Caribbean. It was carrying gold, jewelry, and other valuables, all destined for Spain to help the king in his war. The treasure may have been destined for Spain. That may be where it was going, but it did not reach its destination. Instead, it sank to the bottom of the Caribbean. A couple years ago, I went on a short road trip from Chicago to the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River carries a lot of cargo. So if you look on the river, you'll see barges full of petroleum, iron, steel, grain, wood, chemicals, everything. And the government operates a series of locks along the river. The locks make sure the river level is deep enough to accommodate these barges along the full length of the river. And you can go watch the boats come into the locks. You get a nice up-close view. I thought it was fun. Anyway, the biggest boats on the river all use the same electronic tracking system. So from the cabin of the locks, you can see on a screen which boats are coming, how far away they are, where they originated, what they are carrying, and what port they're destined for. So a ship might come in and it might be destined for Dubuque, Iowa. That's where it's supposed to go. That's its destination. The next ship might have a longer journey. It might be destined for Memphis, Tennessee, and so on. There were 3 giant pandas in the zoo in Washington, D.C. They were on loan from the government of China. After being extended several times, the loan agreement ended, and it came time for the pandas to go home and live out their golden years in China. One day in early November, the pandas were packed up and put on a plane destined for a panda reserve in Chengdu in southern China. The pandas were destined for Chengdu. That's where they were going, and they did reach their destination. One more thing. There's an idiomatic expression with destined for, and that is destined for greatness. You use this when you think someone will achieve great things in the future. Bob Dylan, the singer, said in an interview that he always knew he was destined for greatness. He always knew he would be great, and he was. People said that Sam Bankman-Fried was destined for greatness. Everyone thought he was going to do great, world-changing things in the future. But as we saw, he did not reach his destination. Well, that brings us to the end of Plain English for today, Monday, December 11th, 2023. Remember, the full lesson is at plainenglish.com/632. In the video today, I'm going to show you how to represent one side of an argument. So if you're telling a story about 2 people who are making 2 different sides of an argument, how can you represent the different positions they take? That's on today's video at plainenglish.com/632. And we will be back here on Thursday with another lesson. See you then.